Rizal had a grand tour of Europe with Maximo Viola. Their tour of Europe began through their visit of Potsdam, a city near Berlin. Here, they saw the imposing mausoleum enclosing the statue of Frederick the Great. Rizal and Viola left Berlin at dawn of May 11, 1887 by train, bound for Dresden. The visit of the two Filipino expatriates coincided with the holding of a regional floral exposition in Dresden. It was in this city where Rizal visited Dr. Adolf B. Mayer, who was very happy seeing him. At Dresden, Rizal and Viola visited botanical gardens for viewing and scientific study. While viewing the floral exposition, Rizal and Viola met Dr. Jagor. Rizal told Dr. Jagor that he planned to visit Lemeritz, Czechoslovakia to meet Blumentritt. Dr. Jagor, however, told Rizal to wire the professor of their arrival at Lemeritz. Rizal and Viola arrived at Lemeritz in the afternoon of May 13, 1887. They stepped down from the train that carried them to Lemeritz and were warmly received by Ferdinand Blumentritt. Blumentritt assisted the two Filipino expatriates to get a room at Hotel Krebs. Later, the professor invited them and Viola to his residence. Blumentritt described Rizal as the greatest product of the Philippines and the greatest man the Malayan race has ever produced. He met other well-known scientists of Europe, particularly Dr. Shapalak and Dr. and Viola were also invited to a meeting of the Tourist Club of Lemeritz with Blumentritt as secretary. Rizal extemporaneously talked in German language and they gave him a reverberating applause. To memorialize his happy hours at the Blumentritt home, Rizal made a pencil sketch of Blumentritt and gave it to him. On their last night at Lemeritz, Rizal and Viola invited the Blumentritt family for a farewell dinner to express their gratitude. Blumentritt gave Rizal and Viola letters of recommendation to Dr. Welcome, a history professor at the University of Prague. The professor accompanied the two in visiting tomb of Nicholas Copernicus, a famous Polish astronomer, the Museum of Natural History, the bacteriological laboratories, and the celebrated cave where San Juan Nepomuceno was jailed. Rizal and Viola arrived at Vienna on May 20, 1887. They spent 4 days visiting the city. They stayed at the Hotel Metropole. To change the routine of their travel, the two decided to take a small boat that took them on the Danube River. What impressed him most were the archaic villages on the riverside, which were serene and peaceful. The voyage ended in Linz. They left Austria from Salzburg and re-entered Germany upon arrival at Munich on May 27, 1887, and they proceeded to Nuremberg where they saw the horrible torture machines used against the enemies of Catholic Church. Proceeded to Ulm. This city was known for having the largest and the tallest cathedral in the Germany. Rizal and Viola climbed its many hundred steps. It was at rainfall where they saw the Bin waterfall, the most beautiful waterfall in the continent of Europe. Rizal and Viola crossed the Swiss border and made brief stop at Basel, Bern, and Lausanne. They took small boat and landed at Geneva. They received the news in Madrid about the condition of primitive Igorots who died and become objects of laughter by the Spaniards. This protest was communicated by Rizal to Blumentritt on June 6, 1887. Rizal continued his travel to Italy. In Rome, Rizal had the opportunity to see St. Peter's Dome and St. Peter's Basilica. He even witnessed the faithful Catholic jamming St. Peter's Square at the Vatican City to receive the blessing of the Pope. While in Vatican, he took advantage of attending the feast day of St. Peter and St. Paul. He was very much amazed with the Colosseum and the Roman Forum. There he spent long hours reminiscing the past and recreating life to the ruins. Rizal appreciated Germany the most because of its people. Blumentritt had written about 250 essays and articles on Philippine ethnography. He became interested on the Philippine analogies between the Germans and Tagalog as well as between the Teutons and Igorots. Through Blumentritt, that Rizal became a member of various prominent professional and scientific societies in Europe. In 1887, Rizal decided to return to his homeland, to operate his mother's eye to serve the people oppressed by the Spaniard, to find out for himself the effects of his novel to the Filipinos and the Spaniards, and to find out the cause of Leonora Rivera's silence. Rizal left Rome and transferred to the steamer Haipong, which reached Manila on August 5, 1887. He visited and called up Isabelo de los Reyes twice but was unable to find him. Later on, he visited Ateneo. Jesuits attempted to win Rizal old faith. Father Fauro showed Rizal the image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, which he carved during his student days.
Arrived in Calamba on August 8, 1887. He found his family in the best of health. They shed tears of joy for seeing Rizal again. Upon his arrival at Calamba, rumors were spreading that Rizal was a German spy, a Mason, and a soul halfway to damnation. He was receiving threats every day. His family was very anxious about his safety. He opened a medical clinic and started practicing his profession. He cured the sick and soon gained his fame as an eye specialist and surgeon. He was called as Dr. Uliman as he was mistaken for a German. To discourage his townmates from indulging in sabong, he gave them lessons in fencing and shooting. Despite his activities in Calamba, he did not fail to communicate with Ferdinand Blumentritt. After a few weeks in Calamba, Rizal received a letter from General Terrero inviting him to go to Malacanang. Governor General informed Rizal that his novel had caused much pandemonium among the government. He wanted to have a copy of the novel to find out whether the novel is really subversive and inciting the people to rise up in arms against the government. Rizal returned with a copy of Noli and handed it to Governor Terrero. Governor Terrero did not find anything wrong with it. Being liberal-minded and sensing the threat on the security of Rizal, owing the power of the friars, Terrero gave Rizal a bodyguard in the person of Don Jose Taviel de Andrade. Terrero even counseled Rizal to leave the country for his own good and for the good of his family. Despite the governor's advice, Rizal opted to stay in his home. General Terrero ordered an investigation of the friar estates in order to remedy the agrarian problems relating to land taxes and tenant relations. One of the friar estates affected was the Dominican-owned hacienda in Calamba. Tenants of Calamba sought Rizal's assistance by making him their spokesperson. The findings Rizal submitted to the Governor-General were as follows. Siya and the owner never contributed a single centavo for the celebration of the town fiesta, for the education of the children, and for the improvement of agriculture. Tenants who spent much labor in clearing the lands were dispossessed of the said lands for flimsy reasons. Rates of interest were arbitrarily charged the tenants of delayed payment of rentals. When the rentals could not be paid, the hacienda management confiscated the work animals, tools, and farm implements of the tenants. Rizal's exposure of the deplorable plight of the tenants aroused the ire of the friars. The friars pressured Malacanang to have Rizal eliminated. Terrero fell on deaf ears. The friars demanded for his deportation. Governor Terrero reiterated his advice to Rizal to leave the country. His parents and relatives compelled him to leave the Philippines for his own good and to escape the wrath of the friars. Rizal was forced by the situation to leave his homeland after 6 months for two reasons. His presence was endangering the safety and happiness of his family and friends. He could be able to fight better his detractors and serve his country's cause in foreign land. After attack what the tenants did in Calamba, the friars evicted all the tenants from the Dominican hacienda. The first victim was Rizal's family owing to its refusal to pay increased rent and interest. Counterattack was facilitated by the new Governor-General, Lieutenant General Valeriano Weyler. He acknowledged publicly the role played by the friars in the conquest of Luzon and Visayas. He stressed that religion should be a means of government in the Philippines. Tenants staged a public demonstration in Manila. In the demonstration, the tenants of the Dominican hacienda presented a petition to Queen Regent asking for the expulsion of the friars from the Philippines. The event made the friars demand strong measures against subversion from the government. As a result of advocating the plight of the tenants, Rizal had to leave his family again. Worse, his family was evicted from the Dominican-owned hacienda in his hometown. When Mariano, his brother-in-law, died, the Catholic Church refused to give him a Christian burial, simply because Mariano was married to Lucia, Rizal's sister. Rizal was already out of the country when this happened. He wrote the essay entitled A Profanation, which attacked the denial of Christian burial to his brother-in-law who died of cholera. Francisco, Pasiano, Saturnina, Narcisa, and Lucia were exiled after Rizal left the country. He felt that he was witnessing the reenactment of what he wrote in the Noli Me Tangere. After advocating the rights of the tenants, it's now his own family bearing the brunt of what he did. This in effect had caused him so much despair. In Calamba, Rizal was requested by his friend from Lipa to compose a poem to commemorate the conversion of Lipa from pueblo to villa. The poem was entitled Hymn to Labor. For our country in war, for our country in peace, the Filipino will be ready, while he lives and when he dies. As soon as the East is united with light, forth to the fields to plow the loam, since it is work that sustains the man, the motherland, family, and the home. For though the soil may prove to be implacable the sun above, for motherland our wives and babes will be easy with our love. Courageously set out to work, your home is safe with a faithful wife, implanting in her children love, for wisdom land and virtuous live. When nightfall brings us to our rest, may smiling fortune guard our. If cruel fate should harm her man, the wife would toil on us before. Hail, hail, give praise to work, the country's vigor and her wealth. For work lift up your brow serene, it is your blood, your life, your health. If any youth protests his love, his work shall prove if he be good. That man alone who strives and toils can find the way to feed his brood. Teach us then the hardest tasks, for down they trails we turn our feet, that when our country calls tomorrow, thy purpose we may complete. And may our elders say who sees us, see how worthy of their sires. No incense can exalt our dead ones, like a brave son who aspires. Close reading of the poem will reveal to us that him to labor was Rizal's way of commending man's labor. For him, labor plays a vital role in keeping up the dignity of man, for it is work that sustains the man, the motherland, family, and the home. Thus, he considered labor as the country's blood, health, and life.